This isn't just gossip, ladies and gentlemen, so fasten your seatbelts. This public collapse was seen on camera in real time. Imagine this. Claressa Shields' alleged ideal fiancé, Tony Rich, detonated in the middle of a throng like a ticking time bomb. Additionally, his Papoose, the man everyone claims is untouchable, devoted, and drama-proof, is the target. Not anymore, that is. Because the reality wasn't only revealed when fists began to fly and people cried out, "Stop!" It was aired live like a pay-per-view catastrophe. But here's the real kicker. Was Claressa Shields the true cause of this altercation? Or was it the culmination of years of tension, pride, and jealousy? Tony Rich has been smiling for the cameras, playing the supporting partner. However, unnamed insiders claim that he was collapsing behind closed doors because he was tired of being compared. Desperate to escape Papoose's shadow and weary of whispers. Ladies and gentlemen, the globe witnessed the moment when that anger finally erupted. This is more than a street brawl. This violent confrontation combines betrayal, humiliation, and scandal. And trust me when I say that this was about legacy, not just about Claressa. Let's begin removing the layers of this mess, ladies and gentlemen. Because Tony Rich and Papoose's altercation wasn't a chance altercation. It took years to develop. As you can see, if you place Claressa Shields at the middle of any romantic triangle, you're not merely beckoning drama. In essence, you're ordering an entire smorgasbord of mayhem. And believe me when I say that Tony Rich took on far more than he could handle. Let's dissect this now. Businessman, fiancé, and self-described cornerstone of Claressa's empire, Tony Rich has always carried himself with the arrogant grin of a man who believes he had it all. The respect, the attention, the girl. However, a diamond ring or Instagram couple goals cannot purchase respect. You have to gain respect. And unfortunately for Tony, the parallels never ceased. Whispers followed him everywhere. He's not Papoose, even if he is engaged to Claressa. The wound that never healed is that one. For Papoose is more than just Remy Ma's spouse. He is the epitome of loyalty in hip-hop. He supported Remy during his incarceration, controversies, through each and every hurricane that strikes them. His name became synonymous with commitment. And Tony Rich's loyalty turned into a curse since he was never able to leave Papoose's shadow. Know of how many power couple pictures he created with Claressa. People close to the issue insist Tony tried everything. Networking gatherings, business transactions, and expensive presents for Claressa. His goal was to establish his worth. However, Claressa and Tony were never the true ride-or-die relationship in hip-hop that was featured in headlines. Remy and Papoose were there. You are also aware of how social media functions. Memes prevent you from breathing. Twitter was flooded with screenshots of Papoose being the epitome of a gentleman, while Tony was reduced to nothing more than Claressa's +1. Let's not pretend, however, that Claressa is a drama queen. Not at all. She has a magnetic personality. Major news stories, championships, rivalries both within and outside the ring, rumors of extramarital affairs, and tumultuous friendships. Tony believed he could manage the chaos, and Claressa feeds on it. He believed he would become a hero by becoming the rock in her storm, but instead he became a footnote. Imagine now attending every fight on the front row, observing the while the world laughs behind your back because you're not the man with the reputation. The love of your life revels in your glory. According to unnamed insiders, Tony became somewhat obsessed. According to one insider, who naturally wishes to remain anonymous, Tony once lost his temper at a party when he was jokingly referred to as Claressa's intern. The whispers followed his reply, "I'm not her intern. I'm her empire." Except nobody bought it. Oh, the rumors, screenshots, hazy direct messages, and anonymous posts on dubious forums that all suggested Claressa's loyalty wasn't as strong as she claimed. Peer. Whose name did those murmurs contain? Papoose. Let's be clear now. Was there ever proof? Not at all. However, proof is optional in the world of gossip. Suspicion alone might boost a man's self-esteem. Burning. And Tony Rich, his ego was a tinderbox ready for a match. Papoose's friends and family dismissed the rumors with laughter. They claimed that he hardly ever spoke to Claressa. However, the speculation continued. And when speculation meets uneasiness, you get an emotional, a potent mixture capable of rendering any man unconscious. Tony developed paranoia. According to friends, he began keeping an eye on Claressa's phone, attending her training sessions without permission, and starting arguments over trivial matters. Neighbors said they heard Tony shouting about respect at 2 o'clock during one alleged dispute because it was so loud. So, how does one get from being paranoid to flinging fists in public? Easy. You combine humiliation, jealousy, and a small amount of liquid bravery. According to reports, Tony had consumed alcohol on the day of the altercation. He is red-faced, slurred, but determined, according to witnesses. He noticed Papoose at a place Claressa was meant to appear at, and bang, the ticking time bomb finally erupted. The worst part is about to come. Of course they were, and the cameras were already rolling. Everything is content in our world. Before security could intervene, witnesses quickly took out their phones. Papoose hardly had time to register Tony's lunge before anarchy broke out. Drinks flowing, chairs toppling, people yelling. Chaos reigned. What was the chant of the crowd? Give up. Again and again. To be honest though, no one wanted it to end. Angles were what they want. They were looking for video. They wanted to go viral. Additionally, Tony has already produced one video. You think you're the only loyal man in hip-hop? Goes around on TikTok shows just before a big swing. The swing missed, spoiler alert. However, the embarrassment did not. Because the darkness begins here. That battle wasn't about punching. It was about years of suppressed anger exploding. Tony was battling more than just Papoose. Every meme, comparison, and smirk from those who felt he wasn't good enough was something he was fighting. And when the world witnessed it, the story turned over. He was no longer the influential fiancé. He was the desperate one who broke under duress. According to witnesses, Claressa was frozen. She didn't intervene or stop it. She even smirked, according to some. Consider that. Your fiancé's public outburst puts his reputation at stake. As if it were just another headline to ride, you stood there. That's Claressa for you. She is constantly calculating and observing how she may turn adversity into attention. Ladies and gentlemen, security was rushing, drinks were spilling, and fists were flying. The actual explosion, however, took place online rather than on the street. Because scandals don't simply happen now in 2025. Before the blood ever dries, they are edited, packaged, and made viral. Hashtags became popular in a matter of minutes. Hashtag Claressa trapped in the middle, hashtag Tony versus Papoose, and my personal favorite, hashtag someone stop Tony. There was an abundance of wobbly vertical video on TikTok. Each one shows Tony Rich's breakdown from a different perspective. In less than an hour, one clip, which showed Papoose sticking Tony's clumsy swing like he was avoiding a poor mixtape, got millions of views. The so-called leaks followed the caption. Papoose moves faster than Tony's career. Brutal, but memes were only the beginning. Twitter accounts that were anonymous began posting screenshots of purported text messages. According to one post, Tony was seen yelling at a friend weeks prior. "I'm not living in another man's shadow. It's on sight if I see him." Claressa allegedly texted a girlfriend. According to another leak, Tony is in a downward spiral. "I won't stop him if he loses his temper in public. Let the world see his true self." Were these texts authentic? Who gives a damn? They were juicy. And that's it. The internet is required. Blogs also became involved. Hip Hop Whistle, a dubious website, claimed to have an exclusive eyewitness testimony from someone inside the event. Tony was already hot as he entered. He was murmuring about Claressa's name, loyalty, and respect, being pulled along. He went crazy when he saw Papoose. "You've been making fun of me for years," he yelled before attempting to swing. Claressa didn't flinch. "She looked like she was enjoying the show," said another sentence. Instagram gossip blogs began uploading previous pictures of Claressa and Papoose from industry mixers, charity events, and fight nights as if that wasn't enough fuel. Innocent photos suddenly took on the appearance of coded love tales. A hazy embrace turned into a scandal. A side grin turned into a private matter. The internet doesn't require proof. All it lacks are vibes. Papoose's camp attempted damage management in the interim. Papoose doesn't even think about Tony. This man created a narrative in his head. An unnamed family friend told reporters. Was caught off guard. But he remained composed because that's his personality. Calm, yes, but footage showed him tightening his fists, jaw tight, and eyes fixed on Tony. Calm men don't look like they're 2 seconds away from ruining someone's night. The responses were brutal. One tweet went viral. "Imagine losing," another said. "Claressa should get a medal for keeping a straight face during that circus." Let's just say that Tony's mentions on Instagram were a graveyard. Fight in your dignity in front of Papoose. Tony Rich got to move cities now. Individuals bombarded his most recent post with gifs of broken hearts, clown emojis, and the phrase "in turn." He was haunted by his old nickname. But here's where it gets darker. Phishing investigative reports began to circulate. According to a blog, Tony Rich was embezzling Claressa's money to finance his enterprises. Tony Rich exposed, the headline cried, utilizing Shield's wealth to conceal his own shortcomings. Tony allegedly paid private investigators to follow Claressa in an attempt to catch her with Papoose, according to another so-called expose. The article claims that the PI returned empty-handed each time, which further heightened Tony's suspicions. The most outrageous accusation of all was that Tony was desperate rather than merely envious. "If I can't control the narrative, I'll create one." The anonymous source claimed to have seen Tony say this at a club weeks prior. Was this fight planned by Tony? Did he desire the headlines, the chaos, and the cameras? Was this his perverse method of emerging from Papoose's shadow by taking on the role of the man who publicly attacked him? That's more than desperation if it's true. It's career suicide, disguised as bravado. However, the internet devoured it. In their hour-long analyses, YouTube critics freeze-framed Claressa's icy immobility, Papoose's composed posture, and Tony's flushed face. Videos of reactions appeared everywhere. Into the camera, one influencer shouted, "Papoose doesn't get hit by you. You simply don't." It's akin to questioning loyalty itself. You signed your own notice of cancellation, Tony, my brother. Celebrities even voiced their opinions. Sent the clip?
Embarrassing, tweeted rapper Mayo.
Cardi B loved to upload dragging Tony and Remy Ma, which essentially amounted to her co-signing the online verdict. Unconcerned, she shared a single phrase on Instagram stories. A diss tune was not as loud as that quiet. Naturally, Claressa initially said nothing, which just made matters worse. Her quiet was seen as tactic, as cooperation, as shading. And you know what? They weren't wrong. One gossip page stated, Claressa isn't speaking because she knows this scandal makes her bigger. Tony's humiliation is her content. The fight was Tony versus Papoose, but the spotlight was all Claressa's. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the dangerous part. Because scandals not only destroy reputations, they also generate new power. Her name was cited in the headline, and she was in the heart of every meme. Plays. Claressa's brand engagement soared. Her name trended globally. Sponsors began swarming, journalists begged for interviews, and her PR staff most likely to Tony Rich. This wasn't just a fight. It was the start of a full-fledged legal battle. Ladies and gentlemen, scandals don't stop when fists stop flying. They change, they grow, and they follow you into boardrooms, courtrooms, and every single headline that won't go away. Catastrophe. The confrontation between Tony and Papoose was officially under investigation, and within days, police confirmed what everyone had long suspected. Assault in public, captured on tape, with hundreds of witnesses yelling, "Stop!" as if it were the premiere of a film. That's not something you ignore. Authorities acknowledged that they were looking at the incident from a number of perspectives, and let's just say that none of those videos showed Tony as the victim. According to leaked sources, Tony may be charged with anything from disorderly conduct to attempted attack. An unidentified cop even told a gossip website, Tony is mistaken if he believes that money will save him. The proof can be seen everywhere on social media. Imagine that strangers not only saw your downfall but also rewatched it. As the cops circled Tony, Papoose played his part like a seasoned pro, releasing a composed statement through his lawyer. Mr. Mackie Papoose was merely protecting himself from an unprovoked attack. He was clipped and memed into eternity. He remained focused on his family and his profession. Translation, he wasn't sweating. He didn't need to yell or clap back. His silence, his composure, it all made Tony look smaller, weaker, and more pathetic in comparison. But the legal trouble didn't stop with Tony. Oh no, there were rumors that Claressa's sponsors were asking for clarification. According to one leaked email, a big sportswear company was reconsidering its collaboration, citing bad press about Shield's inner circle. Another purported leak suggested that Claressa herself might be, if Tony's case went to trial, she would be called to testify. The irony was that while Claressa was enjoying the attention, she was also being pulled into the muck with her fiancé. The internet also became a courtroom, with people debating incessantly. One viral thread said, Claressa is playing chess. Was Claressa innocent, or had she fueled the fire by remaining silent and smirking during the fight? Was Tony a victim of ongoing humiliation, or just a jealous hotad? Tony is playing Papoose in checkers and he has already won the game. Accurate but brutal. Financial fissures began to appear in the meanwhile. According to blogs, investors were fleeing Tony's companies out of fear of the negative press. Screenshots of emails purportedly addressed to Tony's employees went viral. All projects are immediately put on hold until further notice. His empire collapsed in real time, more like a house of cards. The most surprising development, however, was when an insider stated that Remy Ma was thinking of suing Tony for defamation. Why? Because there was more to the fight than fists. Concerned devotion. Allegedly, Tony had yelled charges that Papoose and Claressa had a covert relationship. Ray's team wasn't going to overlook those charges if they were reported to the media. Consider the drama in the courtroom. Tony was slammed with a defamation claim by the hip while on trial for assault. Hopjoy Ali. It is more than just a scandal. That's a full-on circus. And yet, despite all of this, Claressa stayed silent. Weeks passed.
No declarações, no regrets, no justificações.
Just a series of pictures on Instagram that show her working out, having fun with pals. As the world blazed around her, she appeared unconcerned. And it was well received. The comments came pouring in. Queen power. While she remained busy and booked, she allowed the men to fight, but others weren't so understanding. You did nothing but watch your fiancé make a fool of himself. The gap became more pronounced each day. This is when it becomes even more repulsive, ladies and gentlemen. According to a court document that was posted online, Tony filed a claim alleging that the frequent parallels to Papoose had caused him emotional anguish. You did indeed hear that's correct. In fact, he attempted to attribute his public collapse to the internet's fixation on Papoose. If accurate, that's not just desperate, it's hilarious. People who remind you that you're not Papoose can't be sued. It would be equivalent to suing the sun for rising each morning. The final bombshell was revealed by an unnamed source just when you thought things couldn't get much worse. Tony and Claressa's engagement was apparently on ice. I can't marry a man who embarrasses me in public. This isn't strength, it's weakness, the source said. Claressa said to friends. Was this real now? Who knows? But once the rumor started, it spread like wildfire. The story abruptly changed. Tony was more than a man being investigated, and he was an abandoned man. Fans conjectured endlessly. Did Claressa truly abandon him? While Tony plummeted, was this her opportunity to change course and become a strong, independent woman? Every notion garnered media attention, and the possibilities were virtually limitless. What does that leave us with then? Tony rich, feeling ashamed, impoverished, being investigated, potentially dumped, Papoose, cool-headed, and more respected than before. And Claressa Shields, who appears to be untouchable, profitable, and in style. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the true question. Is this the story's conclusion, or the start of something more sinister? Due to, if history has taught us anything, scandals don't die, they evolve. It's assault charges today. It might be audio leaks, covert agreements, or startling betrayals we haven't even considered yet tomorrow. And the cliffhanger is right there. Because the battle might have come to an end in public, but the fight is still raging behind closed doors. What we just saw, ladies and gentlemen, is more than a simple altercation. It serves as a model for how quickly reputations can fall apart. Tony Rich entered that venue with the intention of establishing his worth. Rather, he gave his a lifetime supply of memes for haters. The worst aspect is that the cameras captured a man's complete picture dissolving, not just a swing. We must all ask ourselves, though, was it worthwhile? Did Tony truly believe that years of insecurity would be eliminated by lunging at Papoose? Or did he know in his heart that he would only be able to emerge from the shadows once he had one meltdown? Because he just stepped into his legal quicksand at this moment. Claressa Shields, on the other hand, has played this scandal like a grandmaster. No excuses, no words, just calculated quiet. Is that a cold-blooded tactic? Or is it strength? Is she secretly organizing her escape from Tony's mayhem? Or is she defending her empire? As well as Papoose, he didn't even have to engage in combat. His serene stillness, loyalty, and poise spoke for itself. Punching someone isn't always the greatest form of retaliation. The other man is allowing himself to be destroyed. I'll give you this then. Will Claressa break up with Tony in order to save her reputation? Will Tony be imprisoned, sued, or worse, completely irrelevant? Most significantly, did Tony's unsuccessful attempt to take down Papoose only serve to further solidify his legendary status? Leave a comment with your opinions, because there is yet more to the story. Press the like button. If you believe that Tony has dug himself a hole, please sign up for Gossip Spill Vibe in order to don't miss the next shocking revelation. Have faith, the next twist is loading for me already.